Yo, what's good? Hey, I appreciate the over 2,300 people who have subscribed to the channel and anyone who's stopping by, viewing, leaving a comment, giving the thumbs up, giving the thumbs down. Hell, we appreciate it all over here. I'm Marcus, you're the channel, The Debt Free Dad, and this is going to be an interesting video. I'm going to keep it short, but I wanted to talk a little bit about an article I saw in Yahoo Finance. The title of this article was Five Signs That You're Doing Better Than the Average American Financially. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh man, this article may be interesting. I thought it was some good points in here to talk about. Before I even dive into the article, I think the first thing and most important thing before we even look into it is what is the old saying? I don't know. Have y'all, like, mother, grandmother, grandfather, ever said this saying, or have you ever heard this saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. So before we look at this article where we're looking at comparisons to where Americans are financially to give you some bearing where you may be, remember that comparison is often the thief of joy. So all the things we go through on this list, just because you may be ahead or below some of the averages numbers that's going to be given on this list, it really doesn't reflect what your current financial situation is. So I just wanted to say that. Don't let anybody else dictate what your financial situation is, because everybody's financial situation is different. So don't get too caught up on all the statistic and numbers, because we don't know the underlying story behind where people may be. And let's just keep it a buck. Honestly, as quiet as it kept, anytime you're worried about what other people are doing, you're not spending enough time worrying about what you have going on. So the best thing we can always do is focus on ourselves. So I wanted to just throw that caveat out there. Comparison is the thief of joy. So try not to get up in the comparison game, because everybody's different. But I thought this article was interesting because it shows some interesting numbers just to what the average American has as it relates to savings, debt, and the whole nine. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, like I said, this is a Yahoo Money article. Five signs you're doing better financially than the average American. And we're just going to kind of go through these, talk a little bit about each one, and give some of my personal thoughts on this. Hey, see, it starts out saying exactly what I said. Comparing yourself to others isn't always the best idea, but it can come in handy if you're trying to gauge how well you are doing financially. And remember, your your numbers really don't play a role in how you financially. If most Americans don't have $1,000 saved, so I got $1,000 saved, but I got $10 million worth of debt. I mean, really, what difference does it make? So it really all is relative. But we're gonna go through each of these. Okay, the first one is you have more than 4,500 in savings. Now we all know the general rule when it comes to savings account and emergency funds and sinking funds. The general rule you hear often is if you're single or if you have unstable income where it fluctuates, you probably should have 6 months. If you have some stability, you're a two income family, most people say you should have 3 months. At the end of the day, it is all about a number that makes you feel comfortable. I gave my opinion on what I like to do and what I started doing as we started to get our finances in order. We started out with $1,000. Then the goal was to have $1,000 per person. And then after a while of just working at it, paying off debt, continually adding just a little bit, whether it was $50 or $100 a month to it, we were able to grow our emergency fund to a real legitimate emergency fund. But it says more than half Americans, 51%, had $5,000 in their savings account, according to a Motley Fool survey. Additionally, 35% had $1,000 or less. The median amount Americans have tucked away is $4,500. This means that half of Americans have more than that amount and half have less. So give yourself on a pat on the back if you had at least this much saved, then get to work saving more. Now, I do agree with that. Get to work saving more until you reach your emergency fund threshold. But remember, when you're comparing where you are right now to these numbers, hey, first of all, everybody got to start somewhere. it was just like I was talking to somebody in the gym who just started going to the gym. They were like, man, I feel so weak. And I was like, man, I can remember when I started going to the gym to go work out. I started going to the gym to go work out. It looked like my it essentially looked like I was lifting a toothpick with two olives. So we all got to start somewhere. What's going on, sis? Your dog is adorable, by the way. Yeah, I was able to get rid of him. I need to make a few moderators to get the box out. Every time I'm doing a video, it's like hot brunette girls. I'm like, I don't even like brunettes. Like, if y'all gonna flood my live with bots, at least get what I like right. Y'all ain't even got my swag right. And so, but that was the first point. So most Americans, if you got $4,500 or more saved up, you're doing better than average. But remember, like I said, comparisons aren't a real indication of how well you're doing. Because I know at one point I could have $4,500 saved up, but if I gotta pay $2,200 a month in credit card payments off just to pay for all of the credit cards and car notes, it really just kind of balances out. So it really just kind of balances itself out. So remember, we're not going to get too caught up on comparisons. It's just about seeing where we are and what the averages are. All right. So I thought this one was interesting. Have more than $30,000 in your 401k. According to Vanguard, which is where I have some of my retirement accounts, it says these are the median amounts Americans between the age of 34 and 54 have saved in their defined contribution plan. 34 to 44, $36,000. 45 to 54, $61,000. So if you're in your mid 30s and you have more than $36,000 in your 401k, you're doing better than most of your peers. Now, I think this is interesting because what these numbers show me is one, we kind of undershoot where we could be or where we should be in retirement. And it says it right here. But again, this is simply a comparison against others your age. Just because you are saving more than they are doesn't necessarily mean you are saving enough. Many of us will have a long retirement. This means you should save a lot of money so you will have enough cash to see you through your golden years. Some experts have suggested saving twice your annual income by age 35. And so, it's just the litmus test to show where people are. If you got anything in your retirement account, you should give yourself a pat on the back, whether it's $36,000, $3,000, $10,000. You should really give yourself a pat on the back. Actually, because you have time, unless you're like retiring next year. If you're retiring next year, that's a whole different story. But if you got another 15, 20, 25 years in the workforce, you got time to make that money grow. I actually told my son today because he invested on his own. My son has about $700 or so, more or less, in his investment account that he put in there on his own. And so, when he looked at his investment account today, I gave him, oh, that's so cute. Oh yeah, so you doing good. Yeah, you doing good. Hey, I didn't even get started till I was like 28. So the fact that you a baby and you doing and you doing that well, I think that you are going to be doing great and you're in a good position. I started at about 25, but then I stupidly pulled out a bunch of money I had in a retirement account to facilitate a move. But yeah, my son saved $700, and I told him, I was like, man, congratulations, you got about $65,000. And he was like, what? How do I got about $65,000? And so I said, well, every dollar you invest at the age of 20 is worth $88 at the time you retire. You just turned 16. Like you just turned 16 a week ago and you got $700. So multiply 700 times 88, and that's what that amount will be when you turn 63 if we're going to adjust the math based on his age. So but that's how it is with you know comparisons are good. Retirement accounts, this number that they given is kind of a number on what people have on average. But again, you can have that average, but if you have a high amount of debt, we don't know what people's expenses are. So we just going through these numbers, but definitely let's not get caught up too much into these numbers. What's going on, sis? I appreciate you tuning in and leaving a comment. So let's go take a look what they got up next on this list. So next up, you can cover an emergency of more than $2,000. And I think this and the first one that we talked about is what Americans have saved kind of go hand in hand. The survey found that 47% of Americans have emergency funds they can tap into if they needed money suddenly. The median amount in such accounts is $2,000. Other surveys have found many people have far less saved for a rainy day, as little as a few $100s. So if you think you can comfortably cover an expense of more than $2,000, the next time one pop up, you can feel pretty confident that your finances are more secure than those of many Americans. But even if you have more saved than most, you might want to consider putting even more away. And I think number one and number three, one, the amount that people have saved of $4,500, the amount people have in emergency savings, these really just kind of go hand in hand. Y'all already know how adamant and how I feel about an emergency fund. If you don't got an emergency fund, you waiting for you waiting for an emergency to come kick you in the crotch. And being kicked in the crotch is not fun for anybody. So definitely have that emergency fund. And it's interesting too because I was in a discussion today with someone and they were talking about if they should continue to save in their emergency fund or if they should pay off debt. And I think the answer to that is it really depends on your situation. For me, the only reason I'm putting so much extra into my emergency fund because I feel like the situation that my household is currently in is one that has some instability. It's not as stable as I want it to be. When times are great, if there's no inflation concerns and the stock market is doing well and everybody has employment that is stable, in those situations, I'm actually fine with reducing my emergency fund to the minimum amount that I would need, or even sometimes going a little bit lower than that to pay off debt. But when things come to make my family's financial situation uncertainty, where there's some risk, anytime there are those situations, I'm going to always err on the side of putting more in. Now, just because you're putting on more into your savings as opposed to paying off debt like I'm doing with my student loan, it doesn't mean that I forgot about the debt because once things start to stabilize and once things start to come together, then I actually will probably take that money that I've been stashing away to get that emergency fund to 6 months. I may take a lump sum out and use that to pay on the debt and put my emergency fund back down to 3 months. So it always depends, but I think that's a big deal. $2,000, hey, that's the average that people have saved. A lot of people have far less than that. Most times, $2,000 will cover all of your deductibles. I always think that that's a good starting point. If if you got $1,000, that's cool. If you want to go to Dave Ramsey approach, I want to do $1,000 emergency fund while I'm paying off debt. That's cool. But what if your deductible for your house insurance, if a snowstorm comes and damage your roof, or a windstorm comes and damage your home, if your deductible is $2,000, that $1,000 won't even cover your deductible. So the rule that I did as I was going through this process was $1,000 per person, or an alternative enough to cover all of my deductibles. So at least if something happened to the car because of an accident or my house, I could actually pay that deductible. Now, that being said, speaking of deductibles, I'm gonna tell y'all about how I saved some money real quick. And I've been doing this, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's stupid, but it probably wasn't the smart way to do it. Speaking of deductibles, I saved about $75 a month on my automobile insurance, right? And so it's interesting saving $75 a month. That's a lot of money. Like $75 a month over a 12-month period, it piles up. But for the longest, and I never even thought about it until I was just beginning of the year, I'm doing my beginning of the year reset, see where I can carve some things out. I had my automobile insurance policy set up so I get the lowest deductible possible. So my deductible, if I were in an accident, Lord forbid, was $500. But like I could increase my deductible to $1,500 and actually save $75 to $80 a month that I would have to pay anyway. You only pay the deductible if something happened, but you always got to pay the actual policy premium. So I made that adjustment, actually increased my deductible from $500 a month to $1,500 a month. I was comfortable doing that because I got an emergency fund where if something happened, I can pay the $1,500. And like I said, I'm saving 75 to 80 bucks a month doing it. I also had something stupid on my automobile insurance policy that didn't make any sense. I guess it would make sense if I had a vehicle that I was making payments on. But I don't know. Do you all have in your policy? I was able to save some money on my policy as well because I had a provision in there where if my vehicle is totaled, the insurance company would pay me out for the value of the vehicle plus an additional 20%. But to get that additional 20%, it was something like an extra $10 a month or something to that effect. And when I actually sat down and thought about it, I was like, if okay, it would make sense if I still had car payments because if my vehicle got totaled, the value of the vehicle could be less than what I would owe. So that extra 20% would help me to, make sure that I could cover what I actually owed on the vehicle. But if you own your vehicle upright, like why do I care if you're gonna give me why would I pay for an extra 20% of the value of my vehicle in the event that an accident occurs and it gets totaled? Like how often is it? It could happen, but how often is it that you're gonna have a vehicle that actually gets totaled? I mean, you may have one or two in a lifetime, unless you're just a terrible driver or everybody around you is a terrible driver. But it was smart. I saved about 80 bucks a month. So just adjusting those two things. So as we were talking about insurance, I don't know if y'all is all this is a good time to beginning of the year to go take a look at your auto insurance policy because I had some stuff in there that I really didn't need or I could have reduced some monthly calls. So that was definitely a big thing to do. I appreciate everybody. What's going on for tuning in? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, you got to have enough to cover the deductibles. I used to have pet insurance too. pet insurance is a unless you live in the country, pet insurance is a jip. like I stay in the city. Most illnesses that dogs can get, they get a lot of times if they're kind of out in the wild or with a lot of dogs, and a lot of those vaccines that you can give your dog, you can actually just order them yourself and also administer the shot. But yeah, I was paying like 40 bucks a month for pet insurance. Because I'm telling you right now, if I'm not one of those people, like if my dog, Lord forbid, gets like stage 3 cancer, I know people who pay thousands of dollars to get medical treatment for their dog. And I love my dog. I love him a lot, but I'm definitely not going to be doing that if it's something that's just crazy. Your son turning 25. I know my son isn't even he actually just turned 16, so he's talking about no, it was for my regular automobile insurance. My regular automobile policy allowed me to have those provisions in there where I can get an extra percentage of the vehicle's value in the event that the car was totaled. But yeah, it wasn't worth it. When I sat down and did the math, I was like, nah, I think I could cancel that. $3 a month, that's a pretty yeah, that's a pretty nominal amount of savings. So I would probably keep it at the 250 as well. Now if it was if it was like $30 a month, then I would probably think about it. If it was $30 a month or $25 a month, but for $3 a month, I think that is a good thing. Now, if you're not saying nobody here is a terrible driver, but if you had to pay a deductible for your car insurance, like I mean, like 2 or 3 times over the last 2 or 3 years, it may be advantageous for you to have that low deductible. But for me, I was able to save a little bit of money in that. Ooh, oh man, I'm glad he okay. Uh, Yeah, that's the scary thing about riding a motorcycle. Like if you're in your car and something happens, if you're in your car and something happens, you're in a you kind of have an encasing, a cage, so to speak, is a term us bikers use. I can say us bikers, bike life, stay on twos. But yeah, if you're on a motorcycle and something go bad, it's gonna be a problem. So definitely glad he got off. And I don't know, y'all probably got those cool Harleys with your handlebars up here. I might get something like that when I turn 65. I feel like I'm too young to get that. I feel like I gotta stay on the street bike to look cool. What's going on, sis? Happy New Year to you. I appreciate you joining in. Yeah. Yeah. And some dogs have joint stuff like that. It just depends on how much the pet insurance was. The pet insurance I was paying was something like $30 a month, and I canceled it. And my dog right now is 5. Once he turns 7, 7 is like the magic age for Staffordshire Terriers when they start to develop problems. So right around his 7th birthday, I might consider getting it right now. But right now, he still got a little bit of. I mean, he's not a puppy, but he's still young. I don't got to worry about no hip problems. He can get up and down. But as he get older, I may revisit that. But at the time, it wasn't worth having a $30 a month bill for some pet insurance. I just was like, nah, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. See, y'all them cool Harley peoples. I can't. They comfortable as hell though. My pops had one. He didn't have a Harley. He had a Kawasaki Vulcan, same build as a Harley, and I rode it, and it was like I felt like I was riding in a lazy boy. I was like, oh, I can't ride that. I fall asleep and crash. I can't like. No, I need a crotch rocket where I'm tucked down low like this. And the great thing about a crotch rocket is I can only limit my amount of time on it because if I'm on that bike for longer than about 2 hours, I'm old. I start to get some back pain, so I gotta get I gotta get up and stretch out. So let's go take a look at this list. Let's jump back to the list, see what the average Americans are doing with their finances, so we can see where we are. Remember, the caveat is comparison is the thief of joy. So we just giving these numbers to just see, what the baseline is. But covering a $2,000 emergency, I think that's good. I think it's good if you can always add a little bit to that to increase it. And you would be amazed if you just put $50 a month up over time, it'll add up. You won't, most times, you won't have so many emergencies where you're consistently jumping in your emergency fund. For me, most emergencies are spaced out enough to where if I use some money out of it over time, it'll get put back before a new emergency develops. But a lot of that is with doing preventative maintenance as well. Like I said in my last video, I don't know about y'all, but I don't ride a car until my check engine light come on, or I smell smoke, or it starts shaking like I'm riding on some cobblestones. Nah, I do all of my maintenance on the front end because I don't like getting caught out there. Look, my worst fear is just being on the side of the road with the hood up in like the wintertime. So I do things on the front end to try to avoid it. All right, next up on the list is, hey, this is a big one. You have less than $6,500 in credit card debt. The average American adult holds $6,500, a little bit more in credit card debt. According to Lending Tree, and this situation appears to be growing worse with time. If you have less than $6,500 in credit card debt, your debt load is better than most. By the third quarter of this year, the total credit card debt in the U.S. is 925 billion. Ugh. Bottom line is, one of my shirt that I have, it says interest. We collect it, we don't pay it, and that's the bottom line when it comes to credit cards. Credit cards, I always say, are like fire. Fire is amazing. Fire can keep you warm, and you could grill some good ass ribs over or rotisserie chicken. But fire burn your house down and burn your damn skin off too. So I look at credit cards in that same vein. If you aren't careful with what you're doing, it could come back and actually bite you in the you know what. And I will let y'all know is interesting because we know that credit card rates are going up, and credit card rates are absolutely insane. And the reason I know that credit card rates are insane because I actually applied for a new credit card. I'll probably do a video on that. But the main credit card that I was using, since we're here on this subject of credit cards, the main credit card that I've been using, and y'all know if y'all seen my videos where I do my rewards, I've been using the Visa Amazon Prime rewards card. And I normally just do cash back. And I'll probably do a short video, but I think for this year we got back about $1,600 in cash back just from using that card. But I felt like they insulted me. So, anytime somebody insult me, like a credit card company or a cell phone provider, I always threaten to leave like it's a relationship. If you don't want to do this, then I'm leaving. But my credit card company, they kind of piss me off, right? I pay my balance off every month. My credit score is probably 760 or something like that. So it's a fairly decent credit score. I make a good amount of income. And so anytime I apply for a credit card, I never do my household income. Like, there's no reason to. I'll just do the income. I'll do my own income. One, I don't feel like getting all my wife's social security number and all that stuff because I just don't know it by heart. So I'll just, if I apply for a credit card, I'll just do it based off my income. So the Visa Prime Rewards card, the Amazon card, was the card I was using. And they insulted me. Again, I pay my bill off every month. I had that card for over a year now, maybe 18 months or something to that effect. Now, my credit card limit is about $22,000, which I'm so like, anytime I see people or hear Dave Ramsey call or somebody be like, I got $100,000 in credit card debt and I only make $35,000, I'd be like, who the hell gave you that much credit in the first place? Like, I don't know. But my credit limit was about $2,200. Now, at any given month, I'll have about $5,000 to $7,000 on that card, even though I'm paying it off every month. But because I'm constantly using it, there's always a little bit of a balance on the card before I pay it off at the end of the month. And so I know that I wanted to buy a new vehicle, right? And we're probably going to either buy it late this year or early next year. So I know exactly the amount I wanted to spend. And so in doing that, my thought was I'm gonna just put it all on the credit card. But because I know I generally have about $5,000 to $7,000 on the card because I just use it for expenses, then I pay it off every month, and my limit is about $22,000. I wanted to get a credit limit increase. I was like, oh, I need my credit limit increase because whenever, and even though it's not right now, when I go to buy the car, it's going to be if I want to buy a car for $15,000 and I keep 5 to 7 thousand on it, I don't want to push that card all the way to the max. You know what I mean? So I was like, let me increase my credit limit. So when I do go out and buy the car, I can just put it all on the credit card, pay it off, get all those rewards points. So I tried to do it through the app, and I knew it was a red flag because when I went to the app and I tried to increase limit, it was like function not available at this time. And I was like, what? But I can't, why can't I do this? So I called them, and a lady on the phone was real nice. She was like, hey, Mr. DFD, we got you. We're going to go ahead, do it. What's your income? And they clearly looking at all my credit and everything. And they put my numbers in and was like, oh, we can't do it at this time. I was like, why can't you do it? Hey, yeah, y'all know, y'all watch the channel. People in the federal government got a pay raise, okay? So I was like, why can't you do it? They couldn't give me a reason to do it, and it pissed me off. So I was like, you know what? I'll just close this card out and get a new card with a company who'll give me what I want. So I was kind of pissed off about that. Um, oh yeah, you could buy anything with a credit card. You could buy a car with a credit card. You could probably buy a car with they take a lot of stuff. Now you gotta know I'm not going in a dealer and buying a brand new car, right? I already got my eye on how much I want to spend. It's going to probably be between 15 to $20,000, depending on how many miles it is and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, I was appalled. They was like, oh, we can't do it at this time, and they didn't even give me a reason why they could do it. So because of that, I actually went out and applied for another credit card. And the other thing that I also learned is just from doing research, and shout out to you, Tasha, because I was looking at your channel as well, Major Change Group. Um, when you get cash back rewards, like, okay, I got 1,500. Let's say this year I got $1,600 back in cash back rewards. I made $1,600 just using my credit card and paying it off every month on regular expenses. If I would have used that money or those cashback rewards in travel points, it probably would have been almost $4,500 worth of travel points. So that kind of made me change the way that I want to it kind of changed the way that I wanted to look at things and wanted to do things. So yeah, they pissed me off. Like, hey, I can remember when y'all didn't want to give me any credit because my credit was jacked up. But like, come on, man, I've been doing good for some years now, man. I got a nice long credit history. I was really pissed off that they didn't want to increase my credit limit upon request. So I went with somebody else. Now I probably won't close that card out. I'll probably just use two cards. One card is good for buying groceries and travel expenses, and the other card is kind of good for everything else. But I like making threats sometimes, even if they are empty. All right, let's take a look at the last thing on this list so we can see, just where we are in comparison to the average American. All right, so the last thing on this list is you're doing better than the average American financially if you have a total net worth of at least $100,000. Now, net worth is I don't know, like it's good and it's bad. You know what I mean? Like if you woke up as a net worth millionaire tomorrow, ain't nothing in your life is going to really change. Like it's not like you got $1 million of cash in the bank. You just got $1 million worth of stuff. And so hey, I agree. Net worth is more than just a financial metric used for the richest of the rich. Since your net worth is what remains when you subtract liabilities from asset, it could be useful calculation for anyone who wants to understand where they stand financially. Hey, we understand we're taking all the assets, subtracting all the liabilities. According to the Federal Reserve in 2019 survey, the most recent survey, the median net worth for Americans aged 35 to 44 stood at $91,000, a little bit more. For Americans aged 45 to 54, that number was $168,000. Net worth isn't the only way to measure your financial success. So if your net worth isn't over $100,000, don't panic. Still, a net worth calculation can tell you which areas of your financial life you need to work on, and if you want to help you meet your future financial goals. Now, I agree with that completely. I'm gonna be doing a net worth update video here soon, and net worth is just one of those things where net worth is one of those things where it's good to know, but like I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like at one point I thought about I see, and hey, shout out to you if you do a quarterly net worth or monthly net worth. I don't need to look that much. It's like if I'm okay, if it's the New Year's and my resolution is I wanted to lose 20 pounds, I'm not stepping on the scale every day if I know that I'm doing everything I need to do to lose the 20 pounds. You see what I'm saying? So, like, if I want to lose 20 pounds by July and I start going to the gym right now and I say, okay, I got a workout routine, I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. I want to burn this many calories. I got to watch and I'm tracking all my steps. As long as I'm hitting my goals, I don't need to step on the damn scale every week to see where I'm at. The only time I like to meet, I don't know. For me, the only time I would step on the scale if I know I've been eating strawberry shortcake because that's my favorite cake. I just ate a slice today, but then it was an off day. But I've been going hard in the gym, but that's a whole nother story. But that's when I would measure where I am is when I know I haven't been doing what I need to do. So as far as I'm concerned, I think net worth is important, but it's not an end all be all. You can have a $2 million net worth, but you may not have $5,000 in the bank that you can actually get a hold of cash. So I don't get too caught up in my net worth. People worried about what the stock market doing. Oh, I lost this much money. If you ain't sell nothing, you ain't lose nothing. So that's why I don't really do. I think I did a video where I was like, I'm gonna tell you how much, even though the market is down 20%, this is how much money I lost. None, because I didn't sell anything. And that's the bottom line. So, I don't think you should tie yourself up in net worth. I think for me is trying to have liquidity, making sure you can get your hands on cash. Because what good is it if I got a $1 million net worth, but $850,000 of my net worth is tied up into my home, another 25,000 is in my car? That does me no good completely. So, and when I do my net worth video, y'all will see I have some property out of state. I haven't changed the value of that property in 2 years. And the reason I haven't changed the value of the property is because one, I'm never going to sell it. And two, I just really don't care about what the value of that property is. For me, the things that I focus on when I do look at my net worth is the value of my primary residence, my investment accounts, and what I have in actual cash on hands. Everything else is there just to kind of bring the full picture and get some granularity on the numbers. But net worth isn't everything. There's a lot of people who got $1 million net worth. You can have $1 million net worth and live paycheck to paycheck. I know people probably like, you got $1 million net worth and you live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, it's people who got $1 million net worth and live paycheck to paycheck. So that's, let's not put too much on the net worth. Now I got one more article I wanted to show y'all, and I don't know if y'all seen it because I did a short. Let's see if I can pull this article up real quick. It was kind of wild. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's about a couple. Let's see. Y'all see I can't do two things at once. I can't do two things. Like before we go, we gonna talk uh cookies I got here. Now this article I thought was actually interesting. Yeah, that's yeah. Cash, primary residence, stock. That's it. I got the other properties on there, and they paid off, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? I got my vehicles on there; they go down every time I check, so I don't really care. I think that's the best way to get a good view of your net worth is by looking at primary residence, investments, and cash on hand. I don't even include like some people include like their children's 529 college plan. That's not my money. So I don't even include that. And for me, the thing I want to look at is I want the majority of my net worth that I want the majority of my net worth to be in investments, not necessarily in my house. You know what I mean? So, and you'll see when I do my net worth, I try to make sure I got a balance. If my house has a value when we subtract the mortgage from what is worth of $200,000, my goal would be I want to make sure I get my investments up there to where my investments are equal to or more than what the equity is in my house, because that's going to be the stuff that you can reach out and touch really fast in the event that you need it. But everybody does their net worth differently. I mean, like I'm not putting like, hey man, I bought a $5,000 rifle, so let me go and put that up there. Some stuff I'm not gonna put my hey, I bought these Travis Scott Jordans. Like nah, some stuff I'm not just gonna put it there because I just don't think it meets my standard. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's yep, I agree. I agree. Some people actually include I've seen people include their life insurance policy in their net worth. I typically don't do that because I don't plan on dying. I think mathematically the only way that should be included is if you have a whole life policy that has cash value. If you got a policy that has cash value, then I would include it in my net worth. But like if you got a term policy, like how am I gonna include something in my net worth and I gotta not be here to enjoy it? That's crazy as hell. I thought that was crazy as hell. Yeah, I don't like I also tell you when the market is like it is, when the market is on a bear run and it's just kind of in hibernation and going down, I don't want to look at it every month. Oh, 2020 when the market was jumping, I was looking all the time. But now, nah, I don't want to look because I know it's just gonna make me depressed. Well, it ain't gonna make me depressed, but I just elect and choose not to look. I just leave it at that. Now, I wanted to talk about this article real quick. This article is very interesting. Look at the headline of this article. This is a crazy ass article. I be getting some wild articles that pop up. So this guy, him and his wife stay in the Bay Area. They make about $320,000. Last year, they purchased a house and paid $200,000 over asking price. Now they don't want to live in it. Should we get a professional? I think the quick answer, just reading this headline, is yes, you should probably seek a professional. But let me give y'all some of the details of this article, right? And y'all let me know what y'all think or what they should do. I'll tell y'all the details, and I'll tell you what I believe their mistake was. And I think the resolution they should do is definitely find a professional. But so you got a couple. This is a married couple. They make $320,000 a year. Now, if you look into that article, they already had a home. They had a small, modest home that they purchased. Okay. But this gentleman and his wife were having a baby. They wanted to upgrade their home and they wanted to find a house that had all the bells and whistles and everything that they wanted. So they bought this house in a beautiful neighborhood. They said it was a affluent neighborhood around the best schools and everything. They paid $200,000 over asking price. Like, it's interesting because when I see that, I want to know what was the actual price of the house. Because if you're paying over, if you're willing to pay $200,000 over asking price, and you're in the Bay Area in a nice area, that's probably a $2 or $3 million house easily that they purchased. I'm just, it's probably a $3 million house at least easily, just knowing the market in that area. So $200,000 probably, it sounds like a lot cash wise, but percentage wise, it probably wasn't as high as we think it is. But this couple had a house, a modest house. They had a child. They wanted to buy this big ass balling house in this affluent neighborhood. They paid over $200,000 and they got the house. They said their first few offers weren't going through, so they wanted to be super aggressive, pay over $200,000. They got the house. Once they got the house, what did they realize? The house was too far from their job and they didn't want to do the commute. These are two, they didn't want to. The article also said they were having reservations about moving and leaving their friend circle. And maybe this is just me, but I find that hilarious that people give a damn about their friend circle. Hey, y'all, my friends. I love y'all in the chat. Any of my real life friends who I met in person, I love y'all. But as a grown ass adult, my sorry, my friend, I gotta stop. They'll demonetize you if you curse too much now. My friend circle is probably of the least most important when it comes to my decisions and buying a house and wanting to move or not move. So they paid over 200,000. Now they realize this place is too far to commute. They don't want to. They don't even want to move in this house. So what their plan was, instead of moving in this house, we're going to rent this house out now. So now let's put this into context. They essentially paid $200,000 over asking for a rental. And when you factor in what the mortgage payment is versus the rent that they're getting, they're losing $1,200 a month. They're losing $1,200 a month on this house. Not to mention that property values in that area are starting to come back down to reality. So not only are they underwater or they're on the verge of being underwater, their house is going to be upside down, so to speak, but they're not even making enough in rental income to pay the mortgage off. And so I think the key takeaway from this, I think the answer to the question is yes, you should get professional help to figure out what your options are. That's first and foremost. Because if you think about it in the short term, as someone who has rental properties, in the short term, I would think, well, inflation is going on, rents are consistently going up. So maybe in the next year and a half, or when the lease is over with, we may be able to increase the rent to a point where we can get enough to where we can break even on this property. So that's kind of an optimistic way of looking at it. But I think the key takeaway for me for this article was like, come on, really? Sometimes you got to just use a little bit of common sense. When you are making a decision on buying a house that's a residential house, I mean, probably if you're buying any piece of real property, I don't care if it's land or rental property or residential property. But for most people, the house that they purchase is going to be their biggest monetary investment that they ever make in life. You have to do your due diligence. You don't got time to be paying over $200,000 and then decide on the back end you don't even want to live there. That's crazy as hell. It'd have been one thing if you'd have went there and lived there for a year and decided, oh, this is kind of inconvenient. They didn't even move into the property. So anytime I'm doing anything that's related to an investment where I'm pretty much doing it's pretty much an option play. When you buy a house, it's like an option. When people do options on stocks, people don't have all the money to buy 1,000 shares of Tesla. They do the same thing you do when you buy a house. I don't have the money to pay $700,000 for a house. I pay a little bit down and I get a document that allows me to control this asset, and I may sell this asset later or live in it or what have you. But anytime you're doing something where there's that much money on the line, you don't have you, if you have to go back and you haven't sat down and thought of all the pros and cons, like I feel like that's just a rookie mistake. Like I think this is crazy. These are people who I think they were 34 and 36. So for me, I think that's old enough to know better. Like even with my son, when he's going through decisions like, oh, what internship should I take, or looking at schools, I literally make him draw a damn Venn diagram like he's in the third grade on the board. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the neutral, and just visualize it so we can know what is in our best interest up front before we make any commitments. Cool was absolutely insane. I'm sure that house was about $3 million, but I mean, I don't want to call them goofy, but it's early in 2023. But they could be in contention for Goofy of the Year award. I'm gonna do a financial Goofy of the Year award at the end of the year. But like, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they're renting it out. The mortgage is over 4K, but I think in the article I saw it said they were getting like, I think it said the mortgage was like $4,400 and they were getting like $3,200 a month in rent, something to that effect. So, hey, the bottom takeaway from that is like, hey, you got to do your due diligence, but it's people out there who make emotional decisions. Yeah, that's goofy. Yeah, I feel like if I would have made that decision when I bought my first house at 25 and I would have made some irrational decision, but at 34, 36, like, man, to make a mistake with something that costs you that much money is you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in mistakes. You know what I mean? When you start talking about $1 million property, 400,000, $700,000 for a house, if you make a mistake with that, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars you could be losing in the long run because you didn't do your due diligence. So I mean, you just can't be goofy. You got to do your due diligence. And hey, I don't know who idea it was, but I'm telling you right now, I'd have been like, look here, honey, I know it's fall, but we moving in this damn house. It ain't no if and buts about it. I'm sure they both unilaterally agree. Like, I'll be like, look, I'm moving in this house. Somebody moving in this house. You ain't got to live there, but I'm moving in this damn house. One of us gonna be in that house. I know it ain't no way I'm not gonna lose. That's a hard lesson for this couple. Yeah, yeah, man. Like the worst money mistake I made probably cost me, I would say, maybe $6,000 to $10,000 at a pop. I know I made one mistake refinancing a rental property, one that I subsequently sold. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have refinanced it because I had those fees. But at the time, I didn't think I was going to sell it until the HOA got on my nerves. Hence why I would never buy another townhome where there's a HOA, because if your HOA is jacked up and they aren't collecting the right fees, what's the point of having the best townhome in a dilapidated community? So I said I made that was probably about a $5,000 mistake when I calculated all the fees and everything. But luckily, I sold at the top of the market, so it kind of balanced out. And then I want to say when I was maybe 28, I took out, it was maybe, I'm not sure. It was either $6,000 or $9,000 out of a retirement account that I had to facilitate a move instead of just trying to cash flow it. And I actually did the math on what that $9,000 uh, would have been. Hey, what's going on, Lisa? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, you gotta. I always watch your videos and have a lot of questions because I like watching people financial journeys as they're moving and making progress. And so, like your channel, you're new to putting up content, and so I got all these questions. Like you'll be like, "Oh, I'm investing in these stocks," and I'm like, "Well, what about this? What is this?" So I'm gonna need you to just give me a recap of, and I went through it, looked at some of the old stuff, but I'm gonna need a whole debt confession video to explain exactly where everything is so I can get up to speed so I don't got to look through 65 videos. Not that I won't watch them at some time, but but yeah, you got some good content and good luck on your finance journey. That would be interesting. And I would be interested to see a review of what you think of Kenan Grace's Discord. You're clearly learning a lot because I see you making some moves, so that would be interesting as well. Yeah, I know people who had an hour and a half commute who lived in Delaware and drove from Delaware to Washington D.C. every day to work in our office. One because Delaware was cheaper, and two because there were no state taxes in Delaware. That being said, an hour and a half commute each way, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, man. Oh, see, all right. Well, hey, we make mistakes, but hey we fall down, but we get up. So hey, I learned that lesson the hard way. It wasn't a hard lesson. I mean, it was a tax penalty and all that, but at the time, I thought it was a good idea. In hindsight, I'm like, man, that move only cost me maybe $4,000 or $5,000. I probably could have cash flowed that or put that on a zero interest credit card. But at the time, I was bad with credit cards, so I probably would have put it on a credit card and never paid it off anyway. So I got a bar study loan as well. You get a loan to study for the bar. They got loans for everything. Hey, yo, shout out to like, hey, I saw your short that you did on getting your student loan forgiveness, over $200,000 of student loan forgiveness for working in public service. Like, hey, that was big. I'm gonna check out the long form video that you released. But I thought that was amazing because we hear so many stories, and things are a little bit easier now, but we've heard so many stories in the past where I want to say before 2020 it was maybe like 5% of the people who applied for forgiveness through that program were actually getting it. So a lot of people were getting excluded, and they had stupid rules. If you paid more than the minimum amount, that payment wouldn't count towards. And so shout out to you for getting that done. I'm definitely going to check out that long form video because that's a big deal. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna be honest. Like me and my wife, I saw that video and it sparked a conversation in the household of the debt free dad because we're on the verge of paying off my student loan. My wife's student loan is $130,000, and I think she has 5 more years, more or less, to make the minimum payment in that to qualify to get that done. And so what we were looking at was, should we just go ahead and pay off the 130? We probably could do that in 2.5, 3 years once we get done with my loan, or should we just pay the minimum and or should we just pay the minimum and just wait till it's forgiven? I think we just probably right now we're probably leaning towards just going. Rich friend. Oh yeah, she balling. Well, I'm thinking what we're gonna do for right now is just plan to go ahead and pay it off. And I tell you why. Part of it is because I one, my wife is gonna retire well before I do, in her 50s. And I know that my wife wants to do something that's not government work. So the sooner I can get her out of her government job to which she's doing the job she wants to do is the better. And so I would much rather just go ahead and suck it up and pay off the 130K in 2.5, 3.5 years, whatever it is, so that she has that flexibility to go do whatever the hell she want to do, as opposed to make her toil an extra 2 years in a job that she really may not be too excited about. So that was kind of my thought. Hey, it's hey, keep your head above water, sis. Things gonna change. Yeah, keep your head above water. That's all you could do. That's all you could do. And so, but that did. I saw that short, and I was like, damn, 200 and something $1,000 and paying off that damn student loan. That's a great thing. Hey, take care, sis. I appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, that live really made me kind of think about what I wanted to do. Money wise, it would be cheaper just to pay the minimum for however many 5 years she has left. And I mean, we'll save a few dollars that way, but I mean, I don't know. Like, like I, I don't know. I just want my wife to do something that makes her happy. You know what I mean? And if my wife wants to become a counselor and go to school and become a counselor, and her becoming a counselor is going to make her get she's going to take a 50% reduction in her salary. I'm actually cool with that. You know what I mean? I want her to just do something that where she's happy and she's enjoying, what it is that she's doing. For me, my happiness in a job is partly contingent on my compensation. If the compensation is right, I will clean out porta potties as long as I feel like I'm being adequately compensated to do so. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of my point of view. But yeah, shout out to you. Congratulations on that. Yo, I appreciate everybody who tuned in. I'm compiling numbers now to do my net worth video. So that should be coming out shortly. Yo, but this Friday is going to be an interesting video. I'm gonna have my partner on, Kalechi Ubwa. I say his name like that because this dude got mad excitement. But he has a podcast. It's called the Rambling Mind Podcast. His channel is all about financial freedom. And this young brother paid off $20,000 of debt. He purchased his first home. And so it's going to be an interesting conversation. Plus, me and him going to argue over a few points of disagreement that we have. So it should be interesting. I appreciate all y'all. I appreciate all y'all tuning in, as always. Yeah, man, getting those. Yeah, I don't want to. I just don't like people having an obligation over me to tell me what I got to do. Like, I'd rather pay my stuff off early and be able to work wherever the hell I want to, as opposed to you saying, well, you got to keep working here. Because no, I could pay my stuff off early, go get a job in the private sector, and make twice as much as what I was making. So, what would be that's always kind of been my logic. But yo, I appreciate all y'all tuning in. If I haven't told y'all, I try to leave a comment on everybody's page. Have a prosperous, and I'm wishing everybody a blessed 2023. The podcast name is the Rambling Mind Podcast. And you can see, if you take a look and click on my channel, see the upcoming live for Friday. I actually tagged his channel as well as his podcast in there as well. But he got some pretty good content. But this dude got mad energy. I'd be like, I'm gonna have to drink some coffee and get a shot of yak before I do a live with him, because I don't want his energy to usurp my energy. Yeah, y'all take care. Be blessed. Peace. See, I try to read this before I go off. Yep. Cool. Thanks. I appreciate it. Take care, people. Peace.